Easter project, and two choices for you to either make an Easter egg or a cross. If you do a cross, you want to make sure that you use a ruler so you have some nice straight lines. And you'll see that whether you do the cross or the egg, I tried to fill my whole space going from edge to edge, so I have a nice big shape. All right. The first thing I would do is get a regular Sharpie or a fat Sharpie or a fat marker at home so that you can trace your picture, give it a nice outline. If you have colorful markers or Sharpies at home, maybe you want to do a nice colorful outline and do it with, you know, a nice spring color. So go ahead and pick one of these, guys. So I'm going to show you how to do Zentangle designs on the cross for this project. You can also do an Easter egg if you'd like. Zentangles are a lot like making patterns, except for these are a lot more complicated and intricate and have a lot more designs to them. So I'm putting up a PowerPoint on Google Classroom with some different examples of Zentangle designs. You can do them in pencil first if you want, and then trace them with pen or Sharpie, or you can do them straight with your pen or Sharpie. Just keep in mind that if you make mistakes, you can't erase them. I definitely, if you're drawing straight with them, I'd use a thin pen or Sharpie. I wouldn't use a fat one or a regular one. You'll probably just want those for coloring in a few spaces, but you won't want to use them for most of it. So the easiest thing to do is going to be just to pick anywhere on your cross to start, and then using either your pencil or pen or thin Sharpie, you can start anywhere on here and look at those examples on the PowerPoint for ideas. That's going to help you have patterns that are more interesting than what you've done before. And again, we call these types of pattern making Zentangles. But usually these patterns have multiple parts to them. And that's what makes them different than normal patterns, is that you use multiple lines and shapes together to make a larger, more intricate design. You can even use shading in Zentangles, so I'll show you that as well. So now that I have started this one, if I also wanted to use shading, I could get my pencil and I could find areas of this that I want to shade around to make them stand out. So like I could shade on one side of each line, like I'm doing here. And these are usually just black and white. You can do them in color if you want those. So if you've got some colorful pens or Sharpies at home, especially thin Sharpies, then you could do that. If you have any of these little felt tip markers like this, these are really good for doing Zentangle designs in color. Okay, so see, I've started my design here. The shading doesn't quite show up as well, so let me see if I can get it close for y'all so you can kind of see where I've done that shading on there. And then once you have done one design, you can switch to another design. You can either break up your shape into specific areas, like a stained glass, or you can just transition from one to the other. They might even connect somehow. A lot of these patterns tend to look kind of floral. If you're looking at the Zentangle patterns, you'll notice that. A lot of them are kind of remind you of plant life. And unlike traditional patterns, they don't have to repeat exactly, so I don't have to go straight line, curved line, straight line, curved line. I'm just using the same kinds of shapes and ideas inside of one pattern. So another option here, like I said, you can add color. So on this one, I did some shading. Let me put that up close again for you. So see, this one's got some shading on it. On this one, I'm going to use a little color. So I can come in here, and if I have like a thin pen or a thin marker like this, I can add a little bit of color into my design. You can kind of either work in one direction, filling it in as you go, or you could hop around and put different Zentangle patterns in different spaces as you go. If you feel like you're running out of ideas, make sure you go back to that PowerPoint and look at some of the examples. I actually am doing that as I go. I have my examples pulled up so they can give me ideas, and I don't have to copy them exactly. It just kind of gets my brain going, gets my thinking going, so I can come up with new ideas. Alright, so here are just a few simple examples of some different types of ways that I can do Zentangles. And you can just kind of experiment around or stick to one style. You might want to practice before you do your cross or your egg. Or you might decide that you got it down and you want to go straight to your project. But just try to, have fun with this and be creative. You use different styles, look at those PowerPoints so that you can get some ideas and so you can keep them different and fresh so you don't run out of ideas. You can keep referencing those, and then if you do run out of ideas, you can always repeat a design. So, have fun with that. Alright, so you guys kind of see the idea there. I'll come back when this is all finished and show you what I've done. And I hope that you share your finished work too. Remember, you can do a cross or an Easter egg in honor of celebrating Easter and the death and resurrection of Christ. Okay guys, here is my finished cross, and you can see I've done a variety of details and Zentangle design. Some are in black and white, some are in color, some black and white and some color. Some have some shading in them with pencil. Lots of different ideas for you there. You can use any materials that you have at home. If you don't have markers or skinny Sharpies, you can use pens or colored pencils to do this. You could even do the whole thing just with regular pencil. But you can do a cross or an egg in honor of Easter. When you're all finished, if you wanted, you could even watercolor or color the background or cut out your cross or egg and glue it on a construction paper so it looks nice and finished. What I'm going to do today is use watercolors on the background just to kind of fill in that space. So again, the cross pops. This nice thick outline on my cross is helping me make sure I don't accidentally paint my pretty Zentangles or have the ink bleed. It's kind of giving me a little bit of a barrier so I don't get too close and mess up my pretty designs. I don't have to clean my brush each time because I'm only using one color, but I am making sure I get water every time my paint here starts to get a little dry. You can tell that it's getting dry because the brush doesn't move as easily, so when it stops wanting to spread, you need to go get a little more water. That is dry, I'm all done, and I can take a picture of it. Once you've taken your picture, make sure you upload it to Google Classroom so I can see what you worked on. And I look forward to seeing your work, and happy Easter.